I'm here to speak to you about Tocalo Melon, the good future. This is an important question. Today, a lot of people are worried about the future. I don't know if you're worried about the future. Greece is just now coming out of a 12, 15-year period of worries, right? So maybe you're more optimistic. But 71% of European younger people between 25 and 40 are saying they will not have children because the future is going to be bad. Can you believe that? People are saying we're not going to have children. And of course, this is a big problem in Greece. As you know, Greek people are getting older, not having enough children. The view of the future is negative. So one of my key messages today is that the future is better than we think. There's so many things happening that we see around that are threatening to us as people, but of course also as professionals. And I really think what's happening is that we have challenges that create opportunities. If we only had opportunities, we would probably get lazy, right? Because we need challenges to actually move ahead. Sometimes you have really big topics and a conflict is what brings the topic out and creates improvement. So I start with this. The future always arrives very slowly and then very quick, gradually and suddenly. Let's take it from a Hemingway novel. The self-driving car. Okay. Here I am in San Francisco 3 months ago in a Waymo car. I'll play the video in a second. And I didn't think a self-driving car would be possible for a long time, even though Elon Musk keeps talking about it. That's before he went into politics. And the self-driving car is in principle possible. Just like an AI can be a lawyer, in principle. Yeah. It is possible. But it will take a lot of details to get there. So this is what happened on my right. This is actually me filming it. And I use the soundtrack from the streets of San Francisco, just in case you recognize it from a long time ago. The car was doing just fine. But again, this is San Francisco. It's not Athens, right? This would not work here, right? I mean, I drove a few times with a taxi and the Uber here. Yesterday, my taxi driver was watching Netflix on his mobile while he was driving. Right? I mean, is there progress or something? I don't know. So here's another comment on this.
The technology is evolving. He says Waymos are now more assertive on the road, mimicking human behaviors. Waymo sent us this video showing the autonomous car honking at a garbage truck backing up, slowly reversing while navigating a lane closure, and
okay, so the Waymos are getting more assertive, but of course they also make mistakes, right? So humans make mistakes, right? But here the Waymo car drove into concrete and not realizing that it was construction. Right? And so it's really interesting to see eventually most cities around the world will have self-driving cars or vehicles in special lanes, for example, like here, if that happens, right? Or in new cities. Right? But the future arrives. Sometimes we see very little and all of a sudden it's there. Like artificial intelligence. We've talked about artificial intelligence for over 70 years. Right? And it was essentially a thought experiment. Can we have a machine that's kind of works like a human? Right? And so now we are here and many machines pretend to be human. And we're living in a world of exponential change. Exponential means not human. Right? We are not exponential. We learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We improve. Sometimes we leap, but we're not leaping like technology. Technology is leaping now. Artificial intelligence, every 3 months, more power, twice as powerful. Other technology, the processor and transistors are leaping every 18 months. But we're in a leap age. And here's the thing: think about when you think about the future. We're here now, this tiny dot. Okay? In just 2 years, we'll be here. In 5 years, we'll be here. In 10 years, the whole screen will be red. We don't have time to sit back and say, well, let's wait and see. Yeah, wait and see means wait to die. That is both about climate change, different topic, but also about AI. We need to figure out what do we want What is the safest place to get it? And what is the benefit? And who is in charge? Because in theory, we can build a machine, it's called artificial general intelligence, that is as intelligent as all humans combined by 2030. With an IQ of, 5 million. Would a machine with an IQ of 5 million would be the most intelligent species in the world, and we would be the second most intelligent. That is not a good place to be, as we know with ants and chimpanzees, and they're lucky to be alive if we let them. So what we have to figure out is how can we adapt to this change, and how can we change our laws, our policies, and our behavior. And one key aspect of our behavior is that generally we don't do very much until it happens. Nuclear power, nuclear bombs, non-proliferation treaty, right? We wait. But now we're at the point where we really have to think about what is coming next. And many people are saying essentially, this world today, the doors are closing to humanity. They're called the doomers, right? So I believe the doors are opening. Every time you have a door opening, and you know this if you've ever been to therapy with your husband, wife, or kids, most likely with the kids, right? The door opens, it's painful. Because you have to solve a major problem. It's not easy to open a door to solve a conflict. Today, what we have is this door opening moment. That's why I say the future is better than we think, because so many doors are opening. My colleague Kevin Kelly, founder of Wired magazine, he says we should be optimistic, not because we have less problems. We have a lot of problems, right? We have more capacity to solve them. Scientific and technology-wise, we can solve climate change, we can solve water, we can solve energy, we can solve transportation, we can solve disease. What we cannot solve very easily, how do we collaborate? How do we get along? Who is in charge? Politics, basically. So all the practical stuff, in 15, 20 years, we'll have nuclear fusion, unlimited, renewable, more or less, energy. 15 or 20 years. In 25 years, we're probably going to be able to prevent cancer. Prevent, not heal, using technology. So it's mind-boggling, but how do we get along? This is a key question. Right? How do we actually go to a good future like this? And now we're in a world where in the Industrial Revolution, we had the rise of muscle power, machines, airplanes, cars, steam engines, and so on. More muscle power. And that brought a huge amount of rich progress. Right? Today, we're here and we're getting more brain power. But not ourselves, right? But here in this box, I have my instant lawyer, right? My TV program, my advisor, my therapist, right? There's AI therapists. It's hard to believe, but people actually use them, right? The bank is in here. The music is in here. The dating is in here, if you date, right? But too late for me, but it's really intelligence, right? Intelligence is becoming something that machines can do. Just think about that for a second. Machine intelligence is obviously based on numbers. But IBM Watson can memorize Wikipedia in 2 minutes. IBM Watson can read all the legal books in the world in less than 1 second. Does that make IBM Watson a lawyer? Well, you could argue he knows everything, machine knows everything, but it's a bit more than that, right? It's not just zeros and ones and numbers. Right? So intelligence, for us, emotional intelligence, allegedly women have more than men, right? You can see that in the room, lots of women here, that's good. So we have lots of emotional intelligence. But other intelligence, kinesthetic, musical, the body. We have a body. Can you imagine? We actually have a body, right? Machines don't have a body quite yet. The definition of intelligence, Demis Hassabis, the guy who runs DeepMind for Google now, he says, he won the Nobel Prize for this, by the way, just a few months ago. Computer systems that turn information and data into knowledge. Think about that for a second. He's not talking about computers that can play chess. Knowledge. I mean, isn't that what we do? I mean, I'm a knowledge worker. You are knowledge workers. We don't work in a factory. We work in knowledge. If machines have knowledge, what do we do? And what kind of knowledge do they have? And of course, this is unlimited potential for knowledge. If you have 1,000 machines, like in a smart car, in a self-driving car, they can all learn from each other instantly through the network. 1,000 humans would take a long time to teach them. It's exponential. So AI is like a power tool. If you work in construction, you're building a house, you have hammer and nails and whatever screws, and you put it all by hand. It takes a long time. Now you have a nail gun, right? The nail gun shoots the nails in the door 100 times as fast. That's like AI. Now we have a nail gun, the AI gun. And guess what? A gun is dangerous. A nail gun you wouldn't give to a 5-year-old and shoot your nails in the foot or something. Right? But it's a great tool to have. So we have this conflict. How do we control the power tool? What is it allowed to do? The nail gun will never replace the carpenter. But an AI gun with an IQ of 5,000, it's a lot smarter than most of us. Einstein had an IQ of 152. You would not understand Einstein if he talked to you today about his theory. You would just not understand any of it. Right? So what do we do with this power tool?
What neighborhood do you think I'm in?
This appears to be the King's Cross area of London.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions.
Do you remember where you saw my glasses?
Yes, I do. Your glasses were on the...
Now AI can do the real world. Right? And tell you where you are, tell you where things are, tell you what the code looks like. I'll give you a demo in a second, and you'll be surprised all the things it can. I mean, these are demos, right? In real life, they don't quite work like this. But in principle, we're getting there. Right? So here's an interesting chart. What the power tool means increased efficiency and output. Productivity multiplier. Here is the lawyer, right? It's a small increase in productivity, but because being a lawyer rather than a paralegal, that involves a few other things. I'll talk about that in a second. But the paralegal, 4 to 5 times as efficient. Office administration, 4 to 5 times as efficient. Wow. So what does it mean? It means that either your job is replacing 4 other jobs, or you can build a client which you used to build, but make 4 or 5 times as much. What does it mean? And where does it go? And is it accurate, of course? Another question. This is our reality. It's the unavoidable reality of our work today, of my work, of your work. Work is going digital. There's a word for this now. Microsoft has invented in their smartness, probably Copilot who invented it. It said digital labor. Right? Work that's being done instead of humans, digital entities doing the work. And what that means for us is basically this old paradigm shift coming to fruition now. Work, instead of humans doing routines, it's machines doing routines. Now you may think routines are obvious. Driving a car is a routine to us. It's very difficult for a machine because it turns out we make many judgments when we drive. For the machine, we have a style of, you have a style of driving, a Greek style or, Lebanese style or whatever, Italian style, which is, Dolce Vita. But doing routines, right? Machines do the routines in warehouses. They do the routines in factories. Now they would do routines translation. But this translation, these guys up there, their routine really isn't much of a routine because otherwise you wouldn't have them. Yeah? That's because we want a certain quality of the translation. That's not quite there yet, but you can speak into an app and translation will be just fine under certain circumstances, but also exponentially changing. So here's my theory. Right? we're going to a world of total reset. I mean, I'm 64. I'll see most of this, but if you're sort of not 64, if you're young, you'll see everything. Now, the next 10 years will have more change than the previous 100 years. Artificial intelligence, climate change, geopolitical things, nuclear fusion, quantum computing, cancer treatments, genome treatments. It's like, okay, first we have to understand this. And really what's happening with AI, we have all these different kinds, which I'll explain shortly to let you know what we're up to. So going back to what I said earlier, a machine that takes information and data and makes knowledge. This knowledge is, of course, limited because it's not embodied. It's definitely not social. It's logic, unlimited logic. This chart shows you something quite scary, that most of the things that humans do, handwriting, speech recognition, common sense, grade school math, the machines, they're getting there. Right? And of course, you know that this is not true in the end because there's no 100% for translation. Right? I mean, but it's getting much, much better. So 2 or 3 years from now, every call center in the world will do 90% of their work with automated engines, AI. Because then we can understand Greek of different levels or different accents. 21 million people work in call centers. So there's a shift, right? If you do that kind of routine, unless you have a Gucci call center or something where it's not so much routine, right? The robots can do it. AI also passes the bar exam. Right? AI passes the law school exams. But I would say it tells you more about the exams than about the AI, right? Because, in the end, of course, maybe they can pass the exam to some degree, but they're still not lawyers, right? They just know how to tick the right boxes. And they're very good at ticking boxes because the boxes were there before. You just have to memorize them. Yeah. That's not what a lawyer does, as I'm sure you know. We don't tick boxes. Right? But I do a live demo of this. Live demos are always dangerous, but I will do it anyway. So here's my friend ChatGPT. Let's see if I can find him, if he's still there. So what is the future of legal professionals in the age of AI?
The future of legal professionals in the age of AI is definitely going to be fascinating. AI is likely to take over a lot of the more routine tasks like document review, legal research, and even some. This means that lawyers...
Scarlett Johansson, right? Well, I don't speak English. Can you do this in Greek, please?
Φυσικά, μπορώ να μιλήσω στα ελληνικά. Πες μου τι θα ήθελες να συζητήσουμε και θα συνεχίσουμε.
Okay, not so bad. That's a good start for a live demo. So, quiet. Yeah, right. Get out of here. I control you, not the other way around. Okay, so here's the thing, of course. If you're 18 years old, this is what you do. Right? I mean, this is how you find restaurants. This is how you find friends. This is how you find music. You don't Google. I mean, Google is for old people. Right? I mean, this is the operating system for younger people. They have ChatGPT as the home screen. Say, hey, does this girl fit my character? Yeah. Take a quick photo. So, we have to distinguish between intelligent assistants, IA. That's just better software. All of you are using that, and that is the number one thing. That's 99.5% of the action. So we don't have the stupid software. Even SAP is no longer stupid. Right? It's now doing things intelligently. Salesforce has Einstein. They call it Einstein. They're ambitious. Right? But we're graduating from intelligent assistants to AI, which can do more things. And then the last thing, of course, would be the general intelligence, the AGI. Right? This is a machine that can do most of the applicable tasks of humans and replace them. And I think this is a very bad idea. Here's the definition. I think we need to make a cut here because we really don't want that AI to take over. What I think we do want is, I call it cava, like the Spanish champagne. I spent a lot of time in Spain, so it was obvious, right? So kava means cognification, which means to actually get the machine to learn, to give us good data. Not to learn like a human, but to learn. Augmentation, which is to help me get better. Language translation, number one. Right? Research and documents. Monkey work, basically. Right? Commodity work. I mean, I do a lot of monkey work. I'm a futurist. I do a lot of research. So now I can do this. I can find out anything I want now in a very short time. I don't know if it's true or not. It's kind of like Google Maps. Virtualization. I can do virtual reality and go inside the data like Tom Cruise, a Minority Report. Remember, if you're a lawyer and you're looking at a complicated lawsuit or so, you can now dive into that using the Apple Vision Pro and just pull the data out and take a look. It's mind-boggling. And lastly, automation. I think automation is overrated. It's very hard to automate human things. In the factory, yes. Driving, maybe. Flying the airplane, we could, but we won't fly. Right? We don't like a tube without a pilot, even though it's possible. Right? So automation is actually only about 5% of the goal. The rest is really making it faster, making it better, more efficient, creating more benefit. That is where we need to focus today to think about where that is going to take us. So this is a visualization of the kava things, right? So the intelligence of the machines, the augmentation to where we have different options to use as tools, the virtual reality things which are coming, the Facebook Meta glasses and all that kind of stuff. And lastly, of course, this kind of automation, the machine doing things for us, which I will explain in a second. So you've heard about Thomson Reuters, the co-counsel, and Harvey, and I'm sure you're looking at this every day. But here's the interesting angle. Right? This actually works now in so many practical ways. I did a speaking engagement for Thomson Reuters like a year ago, and I got to look inside. I was just mind-blown. I'm not a lawyer, but
This is really the first tool that's actually using state-of-the-art technology to interpret text, to interpret cases, and then to be able to use that information to solve legal problems for it.
The legal industry is facing a disruption like never before. AI isn't just assisting lawyers, it's replacing entire tasks that once required years of legal training. Counsel, built by Anthropic and Thomson Reuters, is the first AI system.
Well, you get the point. It's a good pitch, right? You can see it on YouTube. Right? But the voice is an AI, so I'm not so sure you should believe it. But it's a good pitch. You should watch it on YouTube just to sort of get an idea of where this is going. I think what's happening is that today we're looking at augmentation, helping us to get better. This is not going to replace jobs. However, there's a critical question. If I'm such a superhuman, will the company hire other superhumans? Or I just work more? How will that work? You've heard about many banks, for example, especially in the US, they're not hiring the initial financial number crunchers because the machine can do the crunching. And so the what's called the grunts, the quants, right? They're no longer hired because the machine is doing the hiring and the crunching. So I think automation is something that is still pretty far away, but getting within reach on very simple things, and which I'll explain in a little while. But lots of people are talking about automation. Salesforce is saying that about 86% of customer service is done with an AI agent. Klarna, the Swedish bank e-commerce site, says 65% is done. Now there is an app called Duolingo for learning. They make the programs with AI. And then there's a company, this is the best one, called Mechanize. Their goal is to power the full automation of the economy. The full automation of the economy, not just lawyers, but everyone. This is, of course, typical American modesty. But anyway, it's an interesting scenario what's unfolding here in front of us, because I really think augmentation is kind of where it's at. We can have AI helping us to get, better hands, better feet, and maybe better thinking. Right? That would be very helpful if we can do it. I mean, if you can increase efficiency by only 5%, that's amazing. If you can increase it by 2 or 3x, then we're talking about super territory. Right? This is happening around us. What I think is more critical is the automation part, where we see sort of the machine taking over and turning us into a digital human. So we work for the machine. There's a lot of science fiction around this, right? We don't really want that because we won't be very happy. I think in principle it's possible, but is it a good idea? We have to ask that question. And how are we going to sell a machine that is a machine? How are we going to sell that to the customer? The customer will say, look, I just get the machine myself, if it's going to be available. I think it may lead to a sort of dehumanization. If you become a commodity, you are worthless, right? You are useless. Akasti, right? Useless. So that is really an important point, in the end when we think about this. So when we talk about AI, we have to understand the differences. So artificial general intelligence, generative AI is about creating content. Doing what we used to do, but do it faster. So writing, editing, photos, videos. Here's an example. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand on the precipice of a future that is unfolding at a speed unprecedented in human history. The convergence of technology and human. There was no camera used, no actual talking. This is all an app called HeyGen, where I have my avatar and I can make it say anything I want. And it does pretty good. And then I can tell it to go on and create.
Σε έναν κόσμο όπου η τεχνητή νοημοσύνη, η κβαντική πληροφορική και η βιοτεχνολογία συγχωνεύονται με την καθημερινή μας.
Obviously very bad Greek, but still, right? So I can make a message here to 1,000 customers in 1,000 languages automatically. However, I would say that customers would get pretty annoyed if I do this a lot. It's more like what's called bot shit. It's like spam. So I'm not so sure it will be useful for that very long. But in India, for example, we already have Indians are very tech optimistic, right? So we have in India already people looking at that. Basically 80% is using AI for workflow. And what's under fire is how you bill, right? The billable hour. Because if you use a machine to do the work, the customer would say, what are you doing? You're going to charge me the same than the paralegal, but ChatGPT did it? Right? Good luck with that. So we may end up with a model to where we have to look for a new pricing model, a flat fee, a better database that we use, some continued advantage. Right? I don't think that will replace human judgment, but it will change the tools. So the workflow is just so different. We got to think about that. Because otherwise you'll be competing with a company that's actually not lawyers. They're just engineers running a law bot. And they will do non-disclosure agreements and so on. By the way, we will share the slides later so you can read some of the stuff here. So generative AI, the best example is Gmail. If you're using Google Mail, you're getting pitched all the time. Don't write yourself. Have AI do the writing. But of course you can tell, Google is pushing this very heavily, like, this whole idea of smart compose and smart write. And very soon you don't have to do anything. You just say, answer my 5,000 emails now. And good luck with that. We're not quite here yet with this idea. Google Notebook LM allows you to upload documents. This is a tool I use all the time. You only get the AI to work on the document that you uploaded. Don't upload anything confidential, okay? But for example, you upload like a 1,000 pages PDF about blockchain. I'm not going to read 1,000 pages, right? Just not. I upload it here, and then I can ask the AI questions about the document. I can ask it to make a summary, make a podcast, make a video.
Welcome to Notebook LM. This is where you can start exploring the power of generative AI. The first thing you need to do is start a new notebook. Select the Create button here to get started. Once you do that, you'll be prompted to add some source documentation.
Well, you get the point. You can try it yourself. It's free. Google Notebook. But it's a fantastic tool. I upload all my videos. I have like 1,000 videos on YouTube on my channel called GerdTube. It's a joke, but it's really YouTube. But you can upload the videos here with a link, and then you can ask yourself questions about what's in the video. So if you ever wondered how you're going to watch 100 hours of video, now you just link it here and you ask questions. You don't get the same thing, but it's a great summary. Google's making tools for education institutions now using AI. So you can create like a learning schedule, for kids to use AI to learn. So next, of course, is Agentic AI, the AI that's like an agent for us. And here's the key about Agentic. It basically is the idea of an AI learning and learning and learning, and then it does autonomously do things for us. autonomously. That means I tell the AI I need 2 non-disclosure agreements, I need 2 product reviews, I need a proposal, I need a schedule, I need a budget. Boom, it does it. It even creates the Excel spreadsheet for you. Right? And it actually goes to other web pages and logs in as me and buys stuff. I mean, this is what's happening at this very moment.
Let me show you what we are excited about in the Gemini app. We call it agent mode. Say you want to find an apartment for you and 2 roommates in Austin. You've each got a budget of $1,200 a month. You want a washer dryer or at least a laundromat nearby. Normally, you'd have to spend a lot of time scrolling through endless listings. Using agent mode, the Gemini app goes to work behind the scenes. It finds listings from sites like Zillow that match your criteria and uses Project Mariner when needed to adjust very specific filters. If there's an apartment you...
Thank you, Sundai, but imagine this for legal work. You tell the AI to go to compare lawsuits from different countries on different topics and translate them and put them into a folder and create a spreadsheet, create an image, and that whole thing is done in 12 seconds. Is it accurate? Well, in this case, it doesn't really matter because I'm booking a hotel. It's kind of matters, but it's not life or death. So we have to ask the question, where is that going? And it's going towards digital labor, which is defined as machines doing what we used to do, that perform tasks that we used to do. Companies love digital labor because digital labor does not have a union. It does not ask for a raise. It does not sleep. It does not argue back. It does not ask questions. It makes a lot of money. And this is why we're going to see a lot of it. And that is the reality of our, current economic logic. If it can be done, it will be. And it's a cruel reality where people are saying, okay, I used to do that. Now I taught the AI to do it, and they're doing it for me now. Like the checkout in the supermarket. So it's digital labor is kind of a thing that's coming up, and I think it's heaven or hell, like the whole discussion about AI. It could be heaven if we get to work less for the same money or more money, and we end up working 3 or 4 hours a day. We get the same salary. We're more productive. Let the machines do the grunt work. That would be heaven. Or it could be hell if we end up working even more, replacing 10 other people by our own power. That would probably not be so good.
If my mortgage lender used Agentforce, the powerful AI from Salesforce, a digital agent would have helped me pre-qualify before my dream house would sell. Wow.
The buyer's lender used Agentforce.
Well, who's the buyer? Hey, brah. Welcome to Casa de Wood. Oh, jeez.
Morning, Mr. Nilsey.
Pool's open next week. Bathing suit optional. Agentforce helps lenders prevent finance fiasco.
Salesforce is pitching this thing called Agentforce, right? Which does exactly this. It automates processes that we used to always do on Salesforce. And this is where the process is going. Like Microsoft is doing this, everybody's doing this. SAP is doing this, everybody is doing this. So this is basically where we're going. That's our direction. And the boss of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, says the rise of digital workers will lead to an unlimited age. Okay, he lives in Silicon Valley, right? So the unlocking of capacity across the industry, no longer constrained by human availability. Now I ask you, from a European perspective, is that a good thing, or should we be worried, or should we be excited? Right? It's hell then, right? Hell and heaven. Yeah, because if I can benefit, the company benefits and spreads the benefit, then I'm happy, right? But if the company gets even more power and I get even less power as a worker, then I'm worried, right? Digital labor. This is the summary from ChatGPT, right? Performs cognitive work, accelerates output, unprecedented scalability. Unprecedented scalability. ChatGPT will not sleep, it will not stop, it will just continuously deliver. Unlike us. Because the work is based on logic, it's unlimited. So the coming routine of automation of routine legal tasks, AI-powered systems, junior associate work, basically creating document, creating research. You've looked at all that stuff yourself, I'm sure, but this is what's happening, right? The routine work. And I think we have to think about what that means and how far we want to go. How do we control it and where the value goes? Right? Will it last? Will it result in like a shrinking organization? Right? Or the akasthi anthropy, the useless humans. Anthropy. Sorry. I don't think it's going to result in useless humans. It will result, however, in useless routines. There's a very big difference. Useless tasks, monkey work, right? That is not going to survive. And that means our billing will change, because how are we going to charge the client for the routine work when it's done in 4 seconds? Right? Then we have to create new value systems. We have to create new things, because this is a reality of our future work. Me as a futurist, I used to have a company before COVID, 57 people doing the work of helping people understand the future. It got smashed up in COVID, to that whole thing. And now, guess what companies do to find out about the future? Right? They go to ChatGPT and say, what's the future of Switzerland? Right? Boom, out it comes. And then they say, make a podcast, make a video, make a slideshow. Bye, Gerd. Right? So I have to create new values, just like all of us. We have to be prepared for this, because I think the good news is, as this is happening, many of those things are in principle possible. Like Microsoft says, their AI is 4 times as good as a doctor. But 4 times as good as what? As looking at data. A good doctor does more than data. Right? And of course, now we know, of course, this guy, Geoffrey Hinton, who's a Nobel Prize winner, is a brilliant man talking about AI. He won the Nobel Prize. He said radiologists will be out of work in 10 years.
So, Jeff, perhaps a similar question, if you may. What do you think is some of the exciting work to come?
Okay, so, let me start by just saying a few things that seem obvious. I think if you work as a radiologist, you're like the coyote that's already over the edge of the cliff, but hasn't yet looked down, so doesn't realize there's no ground underneath him.
8 years ago. What do radiologists do today? They use AI to improve their job. Right? They're not gone. And, Geoffrey is a bona fide brilliant man. It's just that we always think that things are routine, but in the end, it turns out it's not entirely routine. Like, a sales agent is not just using her brain to make a sale. There's a lot more to it. 1901, Albert Hubbard, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men. They don't talk about women in 1900. No machine can do the work of one extraordinary woman. We have to become extraordinary. Well, that's already true today, right? Because, if you're a good lawyer, then you're extraordinary by definition. Right? But in the future, if you're just an ordinary worker, knowledge worker, you're a commodity. Becoming extraordinary, what do we do best, right? We communicate, we make things work, we build around the abundance of machines. Number one, humanness is the new scarcity. To be human, right? You know what that means to be human? Empathy, compassion, understanding, emotions, body, intuition, imagination. Like you've always known, of course, as a lawyer, this is what you need. But now the intellectual part is going somewhere else, as AI is becoming the place. You can see here in this pyramid, the lower part of this pyramid is what machines can do now. They can and will, and they're going to get absolutely perfect in it. They will still make mistakes and they will still have hallucinations. But if you use, for example, a database like Thomson Reuters does, that's only internal information. You don't get all the crap from the internet. You only get the good data. Then you get good answers. Very powerful stuff. We are going to move here, the human-only turf. That's your future. Understand technology, become more human, not less, and to understand human intelligence. This is what the machine does. Logic, probability, simulation, knowledge of a certain kind, knowledge of numbers, probability. This is what we do. We're completely the opposite of machines. Consciousness, human agency, awareness, reasoning, values, ethics, all that murky stuff. Machines don't have the first idea about this because they don't exist. How can a machine have value? How can you build something creative if you don't have emotions? There's no such thing. But if you don't exist, you don't have emotions. Don't have emotions, you can't be creative. And it's as simple as that. These are powerful tools and they're now becoming agents. Companies like OpenAI, going back to Blade Runner 1982, remember that scene at the Tyrell Tower where he says, we're all about more human than human. Superhuman. There's no such thing. Right? I mean, it's a science fiction. Right? And the CEO of OpenAI says, we're going to teach machines the ability to think, create, understand, and reason. That is a very bad idea. Right? What do you want the machine to do? Is to get the job done. Competence is what we want from machines. Right? To get the job done. We don't want consciousness from it. We are the conscious. We don't want the machines to have this. So here's the difference, right? Between the left and the right. When you put your hands in water, you have a sensation. Right? It involves like a million different things. Machines don't think, they don't have hunches, they don't understand, they don't imagine, and first of all, they don't care. How can you be a good lawyer or general counsel if you don't do these things? There's no such thing. You will lose. But of course, in work, we've always actually looked at the opposite and said, forget all that stuff. Let's look at the facts, how smart you are. You will not win the battle of smartness with the computer. No such thing. Hands down, lose. Intellectual efforts, we're not going to beat machines. So as we go here, clearly this is our new paradigm. I call this the andro rhythms, the human things. Emotions, creativity, imagination. I've talked about this for 10 years. It's finally true because AI is forcing us to get better with these things. Right? That's how we're going to build a client. That's what the client is going to say. Anything that can't be digitized becomes valuable. But anything that can't be digitized, you're going to charge your clients based on the things that only you can do, not that the machine does on your behalf. Because the machine is a commodity. It's like Google Maps. Right? Why do futurists still matter? I asked ChatGPT and they make a nice poster for me. I guess ChatGPT knows who I am in the meantime, so it's trying to be friendly, So I don't switch it off and keep paying the $20. Right? So the human edge, right? It's all that stuff to connect emotionally, to inspire. This is what you do as well. Right? You inspire, you connect. Right? Focus on human-only tasks. That is where we are going. Final message on this is, if you work like a robot will take your job. And that is not new, but it's more urgent now. Don't be a robot. Right? Be the opposite of a robot. Do other things. So the future of general counsel, total reset. We're going to have AI-enhanced legal opportunities. Legal departments will be reshaped by drafting contracts, monitor compliance risk, flag things, and the general counsel will become an expert in AI. And to understand what it all does, what it shouldn't do, what it's allowed to do, how to comply with things, to embed it in the workflow, like a supervisor of everything we do around this. I know it has little to do with the law, at least not initially, but when you see the PDF, you can look more into this. So ChatGPT made a nice picture. And of course, a lawyer can't be a woman, right, according to AI. So it always ends up being a man. I tried it 50 times. It would not give me a general counsel because, this is, of course, the bias of the internet. The future general counsel strategist, technologist, ethicist, data fluent, AI master. Boy, those skills have to first be collected. Right? I mean, right now, it's quite different. Our reality today is really quite another cup of tea. So big shift from risk avoider to tech navigator. From being the gatekeeper, now we have to become experts in understanding, implementation, to anticipate liability. Right? Basically, our biggest problem will be this, that AI becomes a black box. It gives us advice, makes decisions. We don't know how or why. We can say yes or no. Imagine if you're a doctor in the hospital. The AI says, as you're operating, says, you have to do this or your patient will be dead in 30 seconds. Because the AI has seen, a billion cases. The doctor says, no, I got my own thing here, so go away. Right? Patient dies. Right? On the other hand, of course, in the end, you can't say the AI told me, then you're still liable, right? So this is a black box problem as we go into this future. We're clearly, and this is the most important message, I think, for you guys today, this is our workflow: data, information, knowledge, insight, wisdom, foresight. Right? AI can do the first half very well, and it will get much better at it. Our new work is here. Right? That's the future of knowledge work: insight, wisdom, foresight, imagination, murky stuff, right? Ephemeral stuff. It has always been that, but we didn't really notice. We were just building this stuff. Now we have to figure out, how do we build for this? I'll leave that to you to figure out and tell me next year when I come back. Right? So this is a big issue. I'm going to wrap up because we're going to have a discussion. So let's remember, trust isn't digital. This is what a good lawyer does, right? Catch the baby. No, just kidding. Taking care of everything. And developing a trust relationship. That is where we're going, because that's what technology cannot do by itself. I'm going to skip this because otherwise we'll never get to the end. So, bottom line is, when machines can do logic, whatever that means, right? Humans must get better with everything else. Do not compete with machines on logic, because you will lose. You're already losing. This may be the last year where you can beat computers with knowledge. Right? But, it's going like this. So, very soon, any language, any data, any information. So if you have kids, you got to think about that. The practical part of what we do today is intelligent assistance. That's where you should put your money. Translate, summarize, research, edit, verify, organize. Commodity work. If you do that, your efficiency will go up 50%. Because that's a myth. We're pretty inefficient at most of these tasks. We could do much better. There's already a lot of benefit without kicking out the humans. Do not let go of humans, because we're going to need them for this, for the human to be in the loop. If the humans are not in the loop, you have zero value. Right? Remember that. Zero value. Because that is what the client wants to know. What is the thing that you did, not the machine answered? Right? What is that value you're getting across? Never put efficiency over humanity. This is the end, leads to dehumanization. When we think that efficiency is more important than relationships, right, then we're in deep trouble. Right? Then we become Facebook. No, just kidding. Meta. Then we become a company that just milks the data and doesn't care about its users. Right? That's what social media has become. AI is a power tool. Think of it as a nail gun. Right? How are you going to not use a power tool when you can get one? That's not going to happen. Right? We are going to use it because we like power. Right? But let's take care. What it does, whether it's reliable, how safe it is. Right? And don't go here, so-called cognitive outsourcing. You ask ChatGPT about everything, pretty soon you stop thinking. And then very soon you stop existing. Because that's what we do. Right? We shouldn't outsource this thing to happen. Right? And we have to get a future mindset to hear things. If you cannot answer the question, what does my company look like in 5 years and how we're going to use this, you are in deep trouble today, because it will not take 5 years, it will take 2 years. So the future mindset, question your assumptions, all that stuff that we talk about every single day and in the business of reinventing companies. Take a wider view. This guy on the left is focused on today. He will not survive, because we need somebody to be both looking at today and tomorrow at the same time. That's what people in the US are good at. Right? They do something, they execute well, at the same time they're already in the next window. Right? This is hard for us in Europe because, we like to be perfect like the Germans. We want things to get done and we don't look at the future. That's a very big mistake. The future exists first in imagination, then in will, then in reality. We have to be able to imagine what it would look like and how we do this. I'll leave you with a final statement from Buckminster Fuller, famous futurist. We are to be architects of the future, not victims. Let's figure out how we use this. That's move on to the next iteration of what we can do, create more value for ourselves, for our clients. So thanks for your time. And a reminder, the future is better than we think. Thank you.